I'm Tamara Thomas, editor-in-chief of UrbanHealthToday.com, part of the DocWire family of medical news sites, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Urban Health Weekly. Our goal each week is to keep you informed of the latest in health and medical news right from today's headlines. It's time to empower yourself with open conversations about your medical care with news that matters to you. So are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, I'm Tamara Thomas, and welcome to Urban Health Weekly, where we talk about medical news and health topics that matter to you. So I'm here with Jackie and Lou. How are you guys?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Great.
All right, so we're gonna do like a little bit of a potpourri show today because it's just so darn hot, and we want to get back to laying under the air conditioning
And the fan.
Exactly. Right, exactly. So all right, so let's jump into it. So did we want to talk about the CDC first, or do we want to talk about the monkeypox? I kind of want to talk about the monkeypox.
I think monkeypox goes first.
Yeah, I think monkeypox kind of rates up there, like
it's a whole new pandemic. We need a new one.
A new pandemic.
I don't know about that. So did you hear about the woman with extremely painful, this was in People magazine, with extremely painful monkeypox, and she wasn't offered a vaccine or an antiviral treatment?
Are vaccines available?
Not widely available, but they're available. And this is unlike the COVID vaccine where you have to wait until you're well. Actually taking the vaccine when you have monkeypox decreases the severity of the disease.
Yeah, I think we should, the editor in me likes to say, not that they're available, I say the vaccine exists.
Well, it's a smallpox vaccine, but it works for the monkeypox. Right. It's called TPOX.
Yeah, it exists, but they don't have a lot of quantity, and
of course, people of color don't get.
Well, the hierarchy of who gets it and who doesn't is a little murky right now.
Oh, give me a friggin' break. So who gets it?
I'm not sure.
So the poor black cashier who got it from handling money, by the way.
Oh my gosh. And she's right at the front line.
Was not involved in any sexual activity.
Yeah, no, but come on.
We don't know what her we don't know her sexual orientation is.
Let's be serious here.
I am being serious. I'm being very serious.
Any cashier should be eligible for it. Not
just
poor black ones or rich white ones.
Okay.
Or whatever.
I've never heard of a rich cashier, but okay. I've not.
But I think.
Touche.
I think, just like we did with COVID, we have to start, prioritizing, what are the careers that expose people to monkeypox more than others.
I'm sorry, so you don't think a cashier at a gas station, a drive-through gas station,
I didn't say no on those.
Well, you brought it up, so I'm asking you.
Just like they said frontline workers should get it first because they're facing the public and all of that on the COVID side.
Yeah, except they're not even open. We talked about that last week.
There should be a list of people that maybe should be prioritized for the monkeypox vaccine.
I wonder who's got that vaccine anyway. Like, where would you find it? Like, if I were to take my kid to the pediatrician, it's not like they just have the smallpox vaccine available. It like comes in, during their
I think you have to order it. I think it's one of those things where you have to order it, and you probably have to make a case like, the population of patients that I see are at risk, and so I need to have some kind of thing. But but before that happens, you first need to be aware that monkeypox is even a thing that's going on. And despite all the state of emergency, some of these states are issuing, I still think a lot of frontline providers are, when I say frontline, I mean like primary care doctors, not like emergency doctors. I think a number of them are not hip to the game, if that makes sense. Like I don't think it's like really.
Now, didn't it get declared a federal?
Because they keep saying it's a gay disease.
But now it got declared. Didn't it get declared a federal?
Yes,
a medical emergency.
So that information on the ground. Where's the information campaign that's going out to all providers? Is that happening? I haven't seen that. Where's the posters? Where are the little kiosks with the monkeypox is dangerous? Make sure you wear long sleeve. Like, where is that education happening? I don't see it. And if the regular people are not getting it, I'm pretty sure the providers are not getting it. There are providers that are going to be aware of it because they're seeing it, because you got people coming in like, oh my God, my face hurts, or oh, my genitals hurt, or oh, my arms or my hands hurt, or wherever the lesion spread to. You see what I'm saying? And they
Yeah.
know. But is there widespread education? Is there widespread campaign targeting doctors, making them aware that this is an issue? I don't know that that's
By the way, that lady in the article, I mean, it started with like, it just felt like a little pimple on her face, which, oh my gosh, that, you know, that could be, I could see how she wouldn't know necessarily that she had monkeypox. That's another thing I heard, that it doesn't necessarily look like the photos that you saw out of like the
not at
famous
first, right?
monkeypox. Yeah. And
Like
so
if you look at her, she looks like she's got chicken pox.
Yeah.
yeah, once you see like they develop, but it looks like it start, because I saw some photos online and it talked about, it doesn't necessarily look like that stereotypical monkeypox photo that was going around. It can look really just like like little pimples to start with. So by then you don't know, you just thought you had some acne.
Right. You thought you got
Or a
some little
mosquito.
rash.
I mean,
Or a mosquito bite. And I've
Yeah.
got mosquito bites and I'm scratching them. Oh my gosh, I wonder if people think I'm walking around with monkeypox. Oh well.
Did you hear? Well, there was a guy in Hawaii who had fallen asleep on the beach or something like that, and he got bitten by a bunch of sand fleas. And
Oh, that'll do it. Yeah, absolutely.
people were shunning him because they thought he was covered in.
Yeah, my kids got
Like that?
tons of mosquito bites on the leg from going out fishing and being outdoors, and like, and we get inflamed. We're allergic to mosquito bites, so we're
Right.
all like looking mighty scary over here. Yeah.
But the thing is that she probably didn't take precautions because she, like everyone else, is kind of being
Ah,
that it's sexually transmitted, that it's men who sleep with men. Do you see what I'm saying? The education.
yes, that's still making you think that you're not. So I'm really glad she came out and like People Magazine did a thing. Like, yep, it can be
Yes,
any one of us.
absolutely.
It's not, it doesn't care who you are. We're all eligible
Yeah.
to get it.
People have to understand that you are at risk, period. It's not about your sexual orientation or who you sleep with or anything like that. They need to get off that horse. So I'm really glad that they did that article, and I'm very upset that that her providers did not give her relief, because my understanding is these lesions are extremely painful. The one guy who did a whole, was it a TikTok video or an Instagram video? Do you remember that guy from California where he wanted to educate people because they were trying
Oh
to
yeah.
like
So did he get a vaccine?
I don't know if he got a vaccine, but he got antivirals, and
Ah,
he got shots because his lesions were so painful. They had to give him like analgesic, not aspirin.
wow.
Like they didn't give him Tylenol, like they gave him like
Like the real deal.
Right, exactly. And I'm thinking about this poor young woman who
I
had this.
wonder why she got amoxicillin. Like, is it just to prevent secondary infection?
That's what Lou was saying. He's like, yeah, it's for secondary. But what about her primary infection? That's what's giving her the pain.
I guess they're just like, yeah. So what?
It's unbelievable.
Antiviral. Wow. Wow.
So what's your gripe with what I'm saying about this, Lou?
I don't really have a gripe. I mean,
Because
first
you
of all,
came at me like, "Rawr."
well,
Were you feeling like there's not really anything they can do? It's a virus.
well, a few things, a few things. My feeling is I didn't come at you. What I came at is the fact that we have not prioritized people that are more susceptible to monkeypox and people that are not as
Because we haven't
susceptible.
identified who's more susceptible.
Well, that has to be done, and it's basically
mean,
people
I
that
have,
are,
we have, but
maybe police officers, maybe cashiers, maybe
yes,
Oh
there
yeah.
was a woman. There was a woman who was working in. She was an Airbnb, cleaned Airbnbs, and she got it from.
Oh my gosh. Back to we were talking about
That's what
people
I'm
who have to
trying to
change
tell you.
linens.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
This poor girl got it from touching all this.
Oh, and what's the
Yes.
proper handling procedure for like linens and stuff like that? I mean, what's the
As
washing?
I said several weeks ago, long gloves.
Mhm.
Long gloves. Okay. And if you have monkeypox, and how do you clean your stuff? You put it in the wash with hot water?
Well, you tell me. You were saying that you
I
read.
was looking and it said something about The CDC had like cleaning procedures,
I hope
NYC.com had
bleach is
cleaning
involved.
procedure. They didn't even say bleach. They said laundered in hot water and then through the dryer. And if you can't wash your linens or clothes, put it in a bag for 21 days and like, so seal
What?
it off.
That's pretty outrageous.
Yeah, I guess they,
If you only have a few pieces of clothes, you cannot wait 21 days. That's ridiculous. They
I
should be
guess.
telling people that they need to use, some sort of bleach or some sort of, what I used growing up, in my Caribbean household, we used a product called Dettol. And it's an antiseptic, but it's a very powerful antiseptic that you can use and you can shower with that and stuff like that. I don't know how powerful.
What is that? That sounds like alcohol, like OL. It ends in an OL.
It's like a chlor. I think it's chlorhexidine or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, we use that, growing up on the island, and that was what we used. If you had any kind of skin thing or that's what you use to cleanse yourself, and it kept your skin nice and healthy. Now, I'm not saying that you have to necessarily do that. I'm telling you what we did. I'm saying it's worth a shot. Put a little in your bath soap or whatever and scrub yourself with it. If you think you've been exposed, wash, put it in your soap pump, wash your hands with it. I don't know why they're not saying bleach. Bleach is a powerful antimicrobial. Why aren't they saying bleach? Why aren't they saying hydrogen peroxide? These things will kill anything.
Yeah, I think there's not enough information out there, and I think
That's the feeling I'm getting. Yeah.
Job of informing, because they're just like groping around in the dark and they're trying to figure out. I think they're still stuck on this because the majority of cases are in the LGBTQ community, that they're busy like trying to not hurt their feelings and trying to message it in a way that is not offensive. And I think that's great and very thoughtful, but I think that you're not looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is there are people like this young lady and the Airbnb cleaning woman and the corn dog lady on the corner in the Bronx that you understand,
Oh,
like
yeah.
people that are in danger that they're not telling to be careful, and these people are getting them. This is how it's spreading. It's spreading rapidly because they're not informing, because they're so busy trying to figure out how to message it that they're not delivering a message.
Well, but let's get back and
because a lot of people still don't know.
Let's take a memory pill here. And if we go back to COVID, it took about 5 months.
It did take a long time
before we found out that it was mostly airborne. So we didn't have to hoard Clorox wipes for everything. It took a while for us to find out that it was not, Asians only who carried it or who brought it to us.
Yeah, that it wasn't the Chinese virus.
There was a lot, there was a lot of that. And
getting Asian people assaulted all over.
Yeah, if I'm not Asian, or they brought it, or a lot of slurs that I'm not going to use. There was this whole 5 months. There was no mail delivered, because people felt that.
Oh, remember that when you first got your mail delivered, like you didn't bring it in, you just
2 weeks, you just
yeah,
there, and your mailman, because you really didn't know and all that, and it took a lot. It took 5.
Remember grocery shopping? We'd wipe down each and every item before you. Oh my gosh, it took so long.
Yes. You almost didn't want to shop because it
yes.
took so darn long to break down the groceries that
it's like
and that's if you got it, because deliveries just took forever.
And while it's not impossible to get it that way, we found out that it's very improbable that you're going to get it that way. So I think we have to do the same with monkeypox. I think there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of bias, there's a lot of this and that. As this virus grows, which unfortunately it seems to be doing, I wish there was a way to do it. We're going to have to figure out where the hot spots, where the people, where's like where you go and half of you get it, so that is an issue.
Well, but they don't know that, which is why they need to make the message more widespread. That's what I'm saying. Everybody needs to know that they could potentially be at risk. This is not just men who sleep with men or LGBT. This is not that. This is not just people who work, in gas stations and handle money and handle betting. This is you could literally get this riding the subway. You could get this riding on an airplane.
Yes.
You could get this in any pub because it survives. It's very hardy, unlike the coronavirus. It's very hardy on a public.
Oh, we don't know how long it lives on a surface.
It lives a mighty long time.
Well, because they said with the laundry, they're like, put it in a bag for 21 days. That
right, exactly.
But 21 days is like a good general rule of thumb. That's a long time.
Yeah, that's a very long time. So that's a very long time. So, but that's provided that you don't actually wash it and stuff like that. I would imagine cuts that down.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making is like, if you get on a plane and they don't clean those seats between flights, potentially, this thing is like, this is much more widespread than they're making this out to be. And that's what I'm really concerned about. And I know I crow about this every week.
Well, aren't you glad they declared it federal emergency?
Well, it's about time, but now more people need to know about it.
Okay.
It can't just be in these small circles.
Right.
Yeah, and also I think we've lost a lot of faith in like the CDC and the WHO.
Yes.
And my head still goes back to, you got to eat a bat to get it, because I was one of those fools that listened to it for the first couple of weeks, and I just heard on the radio, you got to eat a bat. I don't eat bats.
Pangolin or a bat.
Oh, remember that? The pangolin. Yeah.
Poor pangolin.
Yeah, I got to eat one of those. Like, I don't eat bats, I don't have to worry about this. And now it wasn't the case at all.
Well, speaking of the authorities, the CDC is expected to ease COVID recommendations, including for schools, shortly. How do we feel about that?
Well, I guess they're taking the position it's endemic.
With the very virulent BA.5 variant nipping at our heels.
I don't know what to say. Schools are coming and my kid's going to be going back to school, and I'm just expecting that we're probably going to be getting, another, I'm sure he's going to end up getting that, and it's going to come to our house. I just feel like it's inevitable at this point. We're going to try to do our best, but I don't know. We had trouble with staffing last year at our school. There was so many people who were out constantly. It was quite a rotation.
Yeah, we're going through that right now with the summer camp. But like every week we get an email that one or two camp counselors is out and they were exposed. So this is the new reality. So far, she's been fine. Listen to this. A preview of the plans obtained shows that the updated recommendations are expected to ease quarantine recommendations for people exposed to the virus and de-emphasize 6 feet of social distancing. Wow. The agency is also expected to de-emphasize regular screening testing for COVID-19 in schools as a way to monitor the spread of the virus. What parenting group got a hold of them and said that? I mean, it was annoying, but it did give some measure.
Was that the screening, like like the checklist you had to do every morning?
No. In order for her to go to school on Monday, by Sunday, we had to submit a negative test.
Oh, you guys had to do that.
Yeah, which I wasn't thrilled about, but at least it gave some measure of, okay, well, everyone else is doing it, and so know that she's going to school with people who are negative. That way it catches the kids who are potentially positive and they stay home. Because you don't produce a negative test, you're not going to be allowed into school.
Okay.
So as annoying as it was, I understood it and I kind of appreciated it. So now they're de-emphasizing that, I guess, because
so every week you guys had to produce a negative test. Yeah, we didn't have that. We had to produce if you tested positive or you had any kind of symptom, then you were immediately sent home. And then you would get a test. And then until your test, the results came back, you had to stay home. And if they were positive, then you had the whole procedure before you could go back to school. And you were allowed to do remote learning if you're positive. Otherwise, if you're ill with something else, you were just out.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I don't know. So, I mean, how do you feel about this as a parent? How do you feel about this whole?
I don't feel like this is over. So that's what's kind of bothering me.
Yeah.
We didn't even have the checklist at the end. Like we had a thing, you had to submit the checklist every morning of symptoms or non-symptoms.
Every morning. Wow.
Yeah, it was just like an online thing. You just like
Mhm.
would fill out the thing. My kid does not have a fever, yada, yada, yada. I not experience. And then you just hit send and you just submit it. And it was daily. And then at the end, we weren't doing it daily anymore. So,
Okay.
but we didn't have the whole testing issue like you
Back
guys
in
had
the gym, I
weekly.
used to have to show that I didn't have a temperature in the morning and stuff like that, every morning that I went. But then we started finding out that in COVID, sometimes you don't have a fever. So much for that.
I'm just thinking with the BA.5 variant knocking people out left and right, is this good timing?
It seems like lousy timing. Yes. It seems like this is all about COVID fatigue and not about the facts.
Yeah, that's kind of my concern with this, that these are not fact-based, evidence-based decisions that they're making. I'm wondering why this is being de-emphasized for children right now. Yeah, I'm just wondering what data that they're going by. As part of the expected changes, the CDC would also soon remove a recommendation that students exposed to COVID-19 take regular tests to stay in the classroom. The strategy called Test to Stay was recommended by the agency in December during the first Omicron wave to keep unvaccinated kids who were exposed but didn't have symptoms in the classroom instead of quarantining at home. I'm looking here to see what the rationale. So they're easing all of this, but they're not really
I
explaining.
think I'm going to predict that the rationale is that they're feeling like kids are falling behind education wise and developmentally due to that's what I'm going to guess, and that they're doing the cost benefit analysis and they're deciding that people being ill.
Money.
Oh,
God.
I don't know that it's money. I think it's education. I think it's
Well, if you look at what's happening in New York here, for example,
yeah.
There's a fight going on right now because enrollment is down, and as a result of that, those empty seats, the city council and the mayor both decided that the school budget should be cut a little teeny bit, and parents were outraged by this. But the cut was justified because enrollments are way down. So it is the money.
Well, the count is 75,000 people. So basically, if you say your typical school has 4 or 5,000 here in the inner city, you're talking about at least a dozen schools that just have no kids, went from full enrollment to zero. That's the scope of the amount of people that have either fled the city or fled the system, which is
right.
More of the people have fled the system and now are going into the private sector.
I don't know. I just think this is.
Did you guys have mask mandates at the school?
No, the first half of the year, yes. The second half, no, because
right. The second half was optional, right? That's what we experienced. The second half was
optional because most of the kids were vaccinated by then.
So right.
It wasn't really an issue. I mean, and then there was a certain amount of herd immunity going on with the vaccinated kids that protected the unvaccinated kids, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I don't know. This just sits in my tummy wrong. I don't like it, but I guess they feel like they've got to move on. So I don't know.
All right, let's take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break. Let me get my emotions in check here, and we'll come right back. And we're back. And let's talk about something slightly less unappetizing. Eating fish and seafood reduces risk for rheumatoid arthritis, which I think that's good. People need
That's
to.
good news.
Mm-hmm. Several studies have reported the contribution of dietary components in modifying the extent of inflammation and disease activity in rheumatoid arthritis patients. These studies have indicated that an animal based diet, such as that includes dairy and red meat, could aggravate RA due to their pro inflammatory properties. As compared to other parts of the world, autoimmune disease are more prevalent in Western countries, which might be due to their dietary habits. Typically, Western diets consist of a high amount of saturated and trans fats, sugar sweetened drinks, refined carbohydrates, and low levels of omega 3 fatty acids, all of which increase the risk of RA. One previous case control study reported that high consumption of red meat increases the risk of inflammatory polyarthritis. However, another study concluded in China contradicted this result and stated that no link exists between red meat intake and the risk of RA. As several studies have provided contradictory findings, scientists in a recent nutritional journal study sought to address this issue and determine the exact relationship between meat consumption and RA. In this case control study, newly diagnosed RA patients who visited a rheumatology clinic in Isfahan, is that how it's pronounced?
Isfahan.
Isfahan, Iran, were enrolled. All recruited patients were not diagnosed with RA and for more than 12 months. The participants' diet was assessed through data obtained from a semi-quantitative food frequency question. God, I haven't heard that term in years, which included information related to the frequency, type, and amount of dietary consumption. An inverse relationship between fish consumption and RA was reported, whereas a significant association was observed between animal flesh consumption and the risk of RA. Importantly, a direct link was observed between processed meat consumption and increased risk of RA. Several studies have reported that processed meat intake enhances inflammatory mediators called C-reactive proteins or CRP. Individuals with higher intake of fish were less likely to get RA. This finding aligns with previous studies indicating a strong relationship between fish intake and reduced risk of RA. Now, we all know that fish, well, not we don't all know, but we, meaning us three chickens, know fish intake that, but what kind of fish? Like, because on one hand, you hear that seafood is great and you should have, plenty of seafood and Mediterranean diet is great. But then on the other hand, you hear, well, you should limit your seafood intake because of the mercury and the plastics and so on and so forth. So I'm just trying to figure out like what the happy medium is here.
I think it was fatty fish, like fish that have a certain level of oil. And then I think it was don't eat too much of the really big fish. Like you don't want shark per se, or and then you shouldn't eat too much tuna. I think that has something to do with the bigger fish. Yeah, and salmon, because the bigger fish, you're
not
dealing with
salmon.
Well, yes, salmon, but not in excess. If you were to eat salmon daily, they
shark. That shark is like 20 years old. So they've been eating and eating and eating, and the mercury just builds up.
Right.
It builds up.
Eat the salmon, it's maybe like 2 or 3 years old, so the mercury hasn't built up as much.
Okay.
It's like
because that's what I've always read. I've always read that salmon is safe to eat.
Salmon's really good to eat, but you don't necessarily want to eat salmon 4 or 5 times, 6 times a week. If you could be eating like sardines or anchovies, you see, those are smaller oily fish, so they're lower down on the food chain.
So and you're also, if you're eating a sardine, chances are sardines a year old. So what happens is, it doesn't have that much time to accumulate all those poisons,
all the toxins.
Where if the fish has been around for 20 years, it's 20 years of eating.
And they're not, and the sardines and anchovies aren't eating the bigger fish, so that they're not absorbing, just they're not accumulating all of that from the other fish that have eaten. They're mostly eating like algae and all that stuff.
Right. And also when we're looking at high pollution zones, a lot of the commercial fishing sometimes occurs near the high pollution zones. So we also have to be mindful as to where the fish is caught. Is it caught near a lake? Is it caught that's clean? Is it caught in the Pacific where maybe it's not so clean and there's a lot of bottle or plastic waste? So where that fish was indigenous from is pretty important. That's why some people like the Arctic char or this or that, because
Hmm.
those waterways
The
are
wild
actually,
Alaskan, yeah.
yeah, they're actually less polluted because
Hmm.
there's less people there.
Hmm.
They're overfished. There's other problems with that. The
Right.
fact is that you might be paying twice as much for some wild Alaskan or something like that, but chances are that it comes from an area that there's less plastic and less stuff floating around in the water.
But in everything else, so like for example, eating organic, obviously it's more expensive because the
Hmm.
way it's grown, it costs more to produce, and so that cost has to be passed on to the
Hmm.
consumer. And so I hear what you're saying about the price, and at the risk of, offending, people, I'm going to go back to what I said previously, that healthcare costs a lot more money than eating healthy,
Hmm.
You're
right?
here.
Yeah. I
Correct.
mean, if you think about how much money you have to spend when you get sick, vis-a-vis the money you would spend in prevention, like buying the higher quality
Hmm.
foods to begin with, if you do that cost analysis, you'll see that you come out better eating the healthier food. And I know that's not easy to say if you are on a waitress's salary or a cashier
Right. Can
salary
you fish oil supplement?
and you've got five. Those get expensive too. You have to be careful with those because a lot of the lower quality ones will have the mercury in it because it's
All right. It's not filtered necessarily,
right,
or it's
exactly.
farm raised, or who
It's
knows what.
right. It's
Okay.
not, they don't process out the stuff that
Hmm.
made the fish, less desirable to begin with. So if you're eating the liver of that cod, say for example,
Ah, you're busting out the cod liver oil again.
yeah, if you're not eating a high quality cod liver oil, it's the liver. The liver in any creature is it's where all the
The
junk is
filtration. Yeah.
and that's where it's
Hmm.
gonna, when they're caught and killed, that's where it's gonna be. So that stuff doesn't necessarily get processed out. So you have to be very mindful to get a very high quality, and that costs money. Like a decent um
A
fish
decent
oil supplement
supplement.
is
Yeah.
gonna run
Really
you
pricey.
no less than 25-30 bucks.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I'm not really differentiating between the bottle and the pills because they're both expensive. So, but 30 bucks, a month versus I don't know how much, arthritis medication is every month. And, and the quality of life that you suffer as a result of having this debilitating. I had a friend who had RA
I've
and
known a few people with
barely,
RA. It's brutal.
yeah, could barely function, could barely use the hands. I mean, it's just, and was getting shots
And
every,
brutal medicine too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, speaking of medication, more bad safety news for Xeljan, speaking of arthritis.
Hmm.
So apparently, in the closely watched oral surveillance trial, ORAL surveillance, patients with rheumatoid arthritis experience infection at rates of 71.2 to 72.5%, um, taking Xeljanz versus taking some other sort of medication. This is reported in the Annals of Rheumatic Diseases. Overall, when taking into account all the findings from oral surveillance, these results should be carefully considered as part of shared decision making between physicians and patients. So the FDA has ordered their maker, Pfizer, to conduct the oral surveillance following the drug's initial approval in 2012 for RA. And then they had already required a boxed warning based on results of the drug's clinical trials. These suggested higher rates of infections and certain malignancies, but regulators wanted a safety focused trial to get a better handle on the risks. An interim analysis in 2019 revealed increased mortality in the high dosage arm, which was then terminated with those patients shifted to the lower dose for their remaining scheduled treatment. Oh my goodness. Most of the infections seen in the trial were non-serious upper respiratory tract illnesses. 12.8 to 15.2% of those on Xeljanz and 12.7% of the placebo group experienced urinary tract infections, and herpes zoster attacks occurred in 11.5 to 12.1% of the Xeljanz versus 3.8 with the placebo. That's bananas.
Bummer. And on top of that, they get the herpes zoster on top. That's so unfair. Oh, and UTIs too. Great.
But are these people who have the virus, and because
Yeah,
the
the
way these
compromised
drugs work,
immune system, it pops up again.
exactly.
Well,
Further lowering your immune system.
Right, exactly.
Well, if we're looking at rheumatoid arthritis, basically it's the immune system attacking your joints.
Right.
So that's the name.
So
of
rather than looking for the cause of what's attacking the joints, like the diet.
Well, it's yeah.
I'm sure once you have it, you just want some relief. But in the meantime,
give the person an immunosuppressant. I mean, it's a very debilitating disease.
Right.
So you give them an
and also in this age now,
you're going to get herpes, you're going to get UTIs, you're going to get a lot of stuff.
No, you're going to get herpes outbreaks. You probably already
you already had it. You don't get the herpes.
Yeah.
That's a very important distinction.
Right. So, but what I'm going to say is that, yeah, it is a very debilitating disease, but do we think that, and I'm not a clinician, I'm just wondering out loud as an informed consumer, do we think that a drug that lowers your immune system and compromises your immune system is a good idea when there are other ways this disease can be tackled that will lend to a better quality of life and won't expose you to potential ruinous effects of, say, a monkeypox or a COVID-19?
Well, I guess you want something while you're having a horrible flare, but the long term is what you want. Obviously,
short term. Yeah.
Right. For the long term, I'm sure you're going to want to give diet and proper healthy measures for food intake. You want to give it a shot, that's for sure.
I'm just wondering, should doctors start be required to educate people in this manner instead of the quick fix?
What do you think, Lou?
I think that a sit down with the patient and an explanation of what this disease means, that you have, people think of arthritis as, oh, my joints are creaky, it's because of the rain, it's because of the weather, it's because of mold, blah, blah, blah.
That's more like osteoarthritis.
Right. And people may not know this. So it comes into the realm of patient education. And I have always said that before you can educate the patient, you got to educate the HCP to educate the patient.
Right.
So this is not just about, here's your drugs, see you soon, you're doing well, Lizzie, or you're doing well, Jenny, type of thing, where the doctor just gets you out of the office. This is like, you got to sit down and you have to explain to the patient, this is what your disease is, or you have to quiz the patient and see, do you understand what this disease is? That your immune system is compromised. So you probably can get COVID a lot quicker. You're going to get outbreaks a lot quicker. You're probably more susceptible to shingles and stuff like that.
And what if you have HIV?
Oh, gosh.
All of the above. So any autoimmune, any immune suppressant is going to allow whatever's in your body to sneak back in. Whatever in your body that your body's keeping away, it's going to sneak back in. So educate the patient. And a lot of times it's also, this is not like blind therapy. Maybe during the fall or the winter, that's when these symptoms are worse. Maybe your body can use a timeout during the spring and the summer. I don't know. That's for the clinician and the patient to decide. Maybe this is not year-round therapy.
But I wonder if clinicians are allowed to have that kind of conversation with the patient that is not centered around, will take, some sort of immune suppressant therapy.
Isn't that part of the doctor-patient relationship that's sort of sacred? Shouldn't the doctor be able to
You
have
would
that kind of
think that
conversation?
doctors should be able to, but not always.
Hmm.
Not always. Not every doctor, because a lot of the times they'll give you what I forgot what the term they use.
The
What
guidelines?
the guidelines are, what the guidelines and the recommendations are, and that's not necessarily what they think or feel, but that's what they are towing the party line and saying, so to speak.
Well, I'm gonna go one step further here, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna say that, first I'm gonna make a pitch for telemedicine, but I'm also gonna at the end, but at the beginning, I'm gonna say that from what I understand, the doctor-patient visit has degenerated to like some fast, assembly line type thing where you talk to the PA, you're led to a room. Your actual time talking to the physician is very limited. The physician's trying to get like 30 people in an hour or some crazy thing.
Right.
So they're not going to be there. They just there to examine you, do the bare minimum, and pass you on to other people in their office with the hopes that you're going to be educated. The good thing about telemedicine is that it's just you and that person, you and the doctor. And there's a lot more talking going on. And for 15 minutes or whatever the time it is that you have that appointment, you've got the physician and they're going to be spending most of that time talking. So my feeling is that, that talk time that's been taken out from the face-to-face visit has to be replaced by a telemedicine visit or a telemedicine follow-up. Maybe you should be examined and then have a telemedicine follow-up. From my experiences from people that I've talked to, that seems to give you the best thing. You go to the doctor, you get your exam or whatever, they do whatever they got to do. And then the follow-up is via telemedicine where they can have a conversation with you. Not 27 phones ringing, 8 patients waiting, and them being in a hurry.
If telemedicine is covered in your area.
It's telemedicine. It seems to me telemedicine would be the cheapest, or provided you have access to telemedicine. What if you don't have a phone? What if you don't? I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Exactly. What if you
Yeah.
don't have broadband? What if you don't have a computer?
What if you don't have internet? Yeah. Yeah.
Then telemedicine is not really an option. So I don't know what to do.
It has so much potential, telemedicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But insurance is sort of pushing back on it because a lot more people are availing themselves to it. And insurance's job is to make sure to spend as little money as possible
to manage costs.
Exactly. To the detriment of the care that is provided. And so back to what Lou was saying about patients not getting a quality experience, that's why a lot of these doctors just recommend these immune suppressant therapy type drugs because it's just easier. It's like, okay, I want to make you better. They're not necessarily bad people. They want you to feel better, but it's really just dealing with the symptoms. It's not really dealing with the underlying cause. So that was really my question. Should they not be dealing more with underlying causes?
It's not a holistic approach.
Yeah, that's my feeling on it. It's probably not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, when you look at these drugs, they come out like gangbusters, and these drug companies, they scrape the cream off the top of the market and they make all this money, and then they find out a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, oops, we've got all these side effects. Well, by then they've made all the money, and okay, if they get slapped on the wrist by the FDA and they've got to pay some fee, they just pay the fee because compared to the money that they've made, it's nothing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not villainizing them saying that. I'm just saying it's wash, rinse, repeat. And that's how it goes. All right. Should we take another break and come back? Because I am dying to talk about this.
I can't wait for you to talk about this either. I know what you're going to talk about.
Cold glass of water.
All right. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. And we're back. And where to start? Where to start with this story? Okay, let's start with the facts.
All right, wait, let's light the fire because I'm ready.
Okay, so Simone Gold, of America's Frontline Doctors, she is going to
L.
she's going to federal prison.
Mm.
Her medical license was placed on inactive status. I'm surprised she wasn't stripped altogether, but it was placed on inactive status while she's serving out her sentence. So Simone Gold,
Wait, that's it? Inactive status?
yeah, that's what I just said. I'm surprised she wasn't stripped
Yeah,
altogether.
but wouldn't it be inactive while she's in prison anyway? Like that? Wow, okay. Keep
Yeah.
going. I'm sorry.
Okay. So so she's a founder of America's Frontline Doctors, and she was automatically placed on inactive status by the Medical Board of California. And she's going to be spending federal prison time in Miami to serve a sentence for being involved in the insurrection on January 6th, 2020.
Ugh.
So she's always been like a an anti-vax, anti-COVID vax proponent. And she's like big on promoting like the ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and all that. But they weren't able to get her on that stuff. They got her on, and they weren't even necessarily able to get her on the riot necessarily. What they did get her on was she she was found guilty of entering and remaining in a restricted building, but she also failed to help a fallen officer, and that's kind of like what she's supposed to do as a doctor.
Is there a legal thing? I mean, I recognize the Hippocratic Oath, but is there a legal requirement?
It's sort of a dereliction of duty not to help a fallen person.
Wow.
So that was what those were the two things they got her on, not all the other stuff. By the way, she's also a lawyer as well as a doctor.
God.
But I guess, well, I'm gonna let you guys start before I ask my question.
Well, I just say there's a special place in hell. that's my feeling. I just, dereliction of duty, just, anti-American, anti-democracy.
You called that the anti-American.
I did.
Oh, she went there.
I went there.
Oh.
Some people view her as a true American, but go ahead.
You view her as
anti,
a true
No,
Go ahead.
no,
Anti.
no.
Anti-caring for your fellow human being. That guy, fell right in front of her and she did nothing. All right. Next.
Ooh, all right. Tell us how you really feel. Lou.
Well, first of all, let's be real here. How many times is there a medical emergency when you're up in the air and they ask for a doctor, and do all doctors immediately volunteer? In her case, she was photographed. All I'm saying is that, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and I'm not sure that doctors are always
getting involved. Maybe they don't want to get involved.
And stepping up to the plate on stuff. And that's just because we don't know that they're doctors. They don't have a little thing around their head that says doctor. They don't walk around with halos and
right.
That's true.
We can't tell them from anybody else. So at the end of the day, to put that onus on her, I think is a bit unfair. However, she was photographed. The evidence is there. Sorry, if you did the crime, you gotta pay. So it's indisputable that she did the crime. I'm just saying that this is something that a lot of people in her same position would do and would get away with it if we didn't know she was a doctor. If she was John Doe, if she wasn't such a public persona, she'd just be another person out of those tens of thousands that were in the Capitol riot
and just disappeared in the crowd.
Disappeared in the crowd. Just this person just milling about, doing whatever they were doing. Number two, I gotta say that I will never go to her because I don't think I'm going to trust her after they do reinstate her license.
I'm sure she'll have her fans though.
oh, she's going to have her fans, and there's sectors of the country where I'm sure she'll be very popular. Um, a little of it too, just seems to be, when she is getting prosecuted, and I don't want to get political here, but I will a little bit. It's sort of like, okay, this is the flavor now that we're going to go after those people that did the Capitol. So again, wrong time, wrong place. Not only were you there during picture time when the officer fell. Not only did you not do your duty, you also were on the wrong side of the revolution, as they say. So that's 3 for 3, ladies. So to me, it's like you're done.
Well, according to the Journal of Ethics from the AMA, justice dictates that physicians provide care to all who need it.
Ah,
So here's what here's my take on this. It's not going to be popular, but
uh-oh.
I guess we acknowledge that people are human. Yes, we agree that doctors are people, and they're entitled to their
To make human errors.
and well, not human errors, but they're entitled to be as ridiculous as the rest of us, right? I don't agree with anything that she did, obviously, but is what she did more dangerous than, say, a doctor who refuses based on their religious beliefs to provide a woman with a medically necessary abortion? What about these doctors who don't want to see certain patients because they don't have money? And I'm just saying, like, is she any more ridiculous than any number of doctors out there who do it and it's okay?
If
Or is there
fell and was injured in
involved
front of her,
or is there certain politics involved in? Yeah, I get that, and that was wrong. I'm not saying that was right. Look, Capone killed a lot of people, but he went to jail for not filing his taxes. You understand what I'm saying?
the only thing they could get him on, right? So
right.
Yes, okay.
So, but what I'm saying is that it's not like she's an exception to the rule. Doctors are doing a lot of ridiculous stuff. Mm-hmm. There are doctors who literally turn people away because they're fat. There are doctors who literally turn people away because they're uneducated or they're poor. They don't go to jail for that stuff.
I see what you're saying.
Turning away can just go to first of all.
No, they can't always just go someplace else, because sometimes.
But they're not necessarily doing it so publicly. That's what Lou said.
That's what I'm saying. Saying Lou
said she performed the crime, and now she performed it in public.
Absolutely, she
got on street. Yes, she got caught. Right.
I'm just saying that should this change the standard?
And the reason I have no sympathy for her is
I'm not saying I don't have sympathy for her either. Yeah. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I do have sympathy for people that are on the wrong side of history, and when
you didn't know it, right?
Because look, at the end of the day, there are people that kind of got caught up supporting the Tsar of Russia. For whatever reason, they weren't doing anything wrong. They were just supporting that person, and some of them lost their lives. Some people supported Louis the 14th.
I'm not saying she doesn't deserve her sentence. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve her sentence.
I'm thinking that she was on the wrong side. She was on the losing side.
But I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. Why is what she did not okay, but what other doctors do?
I don't think what other doctors are doing is okay either.
That costs a lot. That's the point that I'm making.
So while she was acting up,
is it because she was caught on camera doing it?
Well,
how many of these cases have we talked about with these women going to see these doctors, and the doctors basically gaslighting them out of the care that they need?
Yeah, it's lousy ethics. They didn't get caught. That's what it comes down to.
Why is it that is okay? You never hear of these doctors getting any backlash. You never hear of these doctors getting reprimanded by the AMA. It's an honest mistake. It's okay for them to do that, but it's not okay what she did.
Do you think if she were a male doctor, it would have been different?
I don't know. I'm just
curious. Do you think she's getting singled out?
I don't think
as opposed to another doctor?
I think she was, I think the fact
I
that,
think if she were at a
She's in
Black Lives
public.
Matter rally, I think the treatment would be a little different.
might be.
And I'm
Again, it
am
depends.
not saying that what she did, I'm not saying anything that she did
I
was
think
okay.
it
I'm
depends
not
on
okay
where-
with any of it.
on where it's being tried, but here's the thing.
But
I
we're
mean,
in a really political environment right now.
and,
She
and-
didn't lose her license. It's just
No, it
suspended
was
while she's in prison.
yeah.
Correct.
So my
It should have been.
feeling-
It should have been.
my
rescinded,
feeling
but-
is that, you know, I think it's a little harsh on doctors to say that they have to take a case. I think it's, I'm just going to throw it out there. However, I think there are some caveats there. And the caveat is this a critical case where no other doctor is available? The answer
Right.
is
They could refer out a
well,
patient.
no, I'm talking about this particular instance.
Right. Right.
Walked by, there was no other doctor around. She knew that. So tick mark.
Did she know that?
Well, you know, riot.
Is she contributing in the riot? She's part of the riot. Somebody fell.
She was part of the riot, and someone was felled by one of her fellow insurrectionists.
You know, and
she
if that
did not
person,
act.
again, I don't have film, so I don't see how close she was to this or how in the moment she was. Like, did she see this, or was it like 3 rooms down and she didn't know? But
Or did she feel like he's not my patient?
Yeah, you know,
I'm not here in a medical capacity.
Let's just
I'm not
say-
excusing anything
yeah.
she did, mind you.
Let's just say
Let me make that very clear.
Let's just say that this person is in clear eyesight and it's within 50 feet of her, and there's no impediment between him and the person that fell.
And she had
Okay.
no impulse to go over and help.
Now we don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen the video of her and the patient.
Right.
But if that's the case, then a rational person can make the inference that, hey, I'm the point of care person here. There's nobody else. You know, time. You know, minutes count. I got to do it. At that point, I would say gross neglect of her duties. Blah blah blah.
Absolutely.
That to me is a tick mark. If she was part of a cadre of doctors, you know, that decided to all go together and demonstrate as a group, and 7 surgeons were near her and all that, I can see where one person says, hey, I don't want to get involved in this. I don't think I'm qualified. I just don't want to do it. Whatever your reason is, I get it. And I think that when you turn down somebody for
I
care
don't get
that's
it.
not critical, I think a doctor should have some leeway.
So you think cancer is not critical? You think if somebody says I can't eat, I can't go to the bathroom,
I
I'm
think
passing bloody
if-
stools.
If that patient,
You don't
can be
think
re-
that's-
if that
you don't
patient
think
can be
cancer is
referred
critical?
to somebody who you feel,
But that's
is-
not what happened. What happened was, time and again, these doctors gaslighted these people out of getting follow-up or further care. No, you just need to lose weight. Oh, it's great that you're not eating. Oh, this is nothing.
But that
Nothing
was
to worry about at
can't-
all.
That sounds more like malpractice.
But my point is that this happens all the time, and these doctors sort of,
is it incompetence or malice?
well,
Wow.
was what she
Somebody
did.
dropping in front of you is malice, and you don't do anything. That's malice.
Okay.
And you're the only one around.
Okay, but if a patient
Dereliction of duty.
comes into you, and because the person is obese, and you don't give them the care that they're supposed to get, is that not malicious?
I think what you're
Should
saying
we-
is, how come they get away with it and she didn't?
What I'm saying-
She's an insurrectionist, and she
Right.
got
And right
she
now, that's
went out in
playing out.
public and did everything wrong in public. That's why. And they can't stand by and witness that and do nothing about it.
Yeah. Remember, you only have one life and one body, so you got to do your best to make it count so your years are full of life and full of health. Remember, information equals transformation. Small steps each day, and you'll see a difference. I'm sure of it. So check us out on Urban Health Weekly when this goes up. And you guys, you're the best as always, and have a terrific week.
Absolutely. And try to stay cool out there.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye, guys. See you next
Bye.
week.
Thanks for listening to Urban Health Weekly today. I hope you'll join me and my friends next week so you can stay informed and inspired to take control of your health. See you next time.